Welcome, everyone, dear listeners. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future stories. Now, let's begin our tale. In the hushed whisper of twilight, when the sun sank beneath the horizon and shadows stretched their long fingers across the medieval landscape, a village nestled in the valley stirred with the murmurs of the night. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wood smoke, an ancient perfume that clung to the stone walls and thatched roofs like a forgotten memory. Here, in this quaint hamlet, life unfurled in rhythms both timeless and peculiar, weaving tales of humanity in its most elemental form. As the evening deepened, the villagers retreated into the embrace of their cottages, where flickering candlelight cast dancing phantoms upon the rough-hewn beams. Inside these humble abodes, the customs of cleanliness, or the startling lack thereof, whispered secrets of a world where shadows loomed large and the very air seemed to pulse with tales untold. The hearth crackled with a languid warmth, its glow illuminating the worn faces gathered around it. This was the heart of the home, a sanctuary where stories flowed like wine and traditions were as solid as the stones that encased them. In one such cottage, nestled at the edge of the village, an elderly woman with silver hair and a voice as soft as a lullaby began to speak, her words weaving a tapestry of history and habit that captivated those gathered around her. "In the times of old," she began, her gaze distant and dreamy, "our ways of living were shaped by the land and the seasons, by the earth beneath our feet and the stars above our heads. Yet, even as we toiled and thrived, our understanding of cleanliness was a curious thing, a dance with the unseen that defied the modern mind." Her audience leaned closer, their eyes reflecting the flicker of the flames, eager to be drawn into the world she painted with her words. "Imagine, if you will," she continued, "a time when the rivers were our lifelines, their waters both friend and foe. We bathed in their currents, trusting in their cleansing embrace, yet unaware of the secrets they carried. For in those waters lay not only the touch of life, but the breath of disease, a hidden specter that walked amongst us, unseen and unchallenged." She paused, letting the weight of a word settle like a gentle mist before continuing her tale. "In our homes, the rituals of cleanliness were a curious affair, a delicate balance between necessity and neglect. We swept our floors with brooms of straw, chasing away the dust and dirt with a rhythm that echoed the heartbeat of the earth. Yet, in the corners and crevices, shadows lingered, harboring the whispers of ages past. The villagers shifted, their imaginations painting vivid scenes of these bygone days, their senses alive with the sights and sounds of a world both familiar and foreign. And what of our bodies?" the woman mused, her voice a melodic thread that wove through the room. "In those times, the art of bathing was a rare indulgence, a luxury reserved for the wealthy or the devout. For many, the touch of water was a seasonal blessing, a ritual performed in the warmth of summer's embrace or on the eve of a holy day." She chuckled softly, a sound like the rustling of leaves in the autumn breeze. "We relied upon the power of herbs and oils, anointing our skin with their fragrant touch, believing in their ability to ward off the unseen evils that clung to us like shadows." Her audience, caught in the web of her storytelling, could almost feel the phantom touch of lavender and rosemary, the scents mingling with the smoky air of the hearth. "Yet," she continued, her tone taking on a note of suspense. There were those among us who delved into the darker arts of hygiene, practices that would make the skin crawl and the heart race. In the flickering candlelight, beneath the cloak of night, they would cleanse their homes with the pungent smoke of burning herbs, believing it could chase away the malevolent spirits that lurked in the shadows. The room seemed to darken, the fire casting eerie shapes upon the walls as the woman's words conjured images of these secretive rituals. Her audience listened, rapt and breathless, as she shared tales of potions and charms, of whispered incantations that sought to protect and purify. These were times when superstition and survival walked hand in hand, she said, her voice a gentle caress. When the line between the living and the ethereal was as thin as a spider's web, and the night was alive with the rustle of unseen wings. The tale hung in the air, a delicate balance of curiosity and caution, as the villagers sat in silence, absorbing the richness of the world the woman had brought to life with her words. Outside, the wind sighed through the trees, carrying with it the scent of distant rain and the promise of new stories yet to unfold. The village lay in slumber, cradled in the arms of the night, as the world turned beneath the watchful gaze of the stars. And within the cozy confines of the cottage, the storyteller's voice continued its gentle weave, drawing her audience ever deeper into the enchanting tapestry of the past, where the dark side of medieval hygiene unfurled like a forgotten dream. Her words wove a haunting tapestry, rich with the textures of another time, a world where the mingling of shadow and substance was as common as the morning dew. The villagers, gathered around the flickering hearth, leaned in closer, their faces illuminated by the warm glow of the firelight. Their eyes were wide with the thrill of the unknown, as if the very walls of the cottage were breathing with the secrets of centuries past. In those days, the storyteller continued, her voice a gentle murmur, the rivers and streams, the lifeblood of the land, bore witness to the daily rituals of the people. Yet they carried more than just water. They were the veins through which flowed the remnants of human life. The refuse of the streets, the waste of households, all found their way into these waters, painting them with the colors of decay. The villagers shuddered at the thought, imagining the murky depths of those ancient waters swirling with the detritus of life. The storyteller's voice was a soft lilt, like the rustle of leaves in a hidden grove, drawing them further into the heart of the tale. Bathing, you see, was not the sacred ritual it is today, she said, a wry smile playing on her lips. Many believed that water, when used too liberally, could open the pores, allowing disease to seep into the body, much like a thief slipping through an open window in the dead of night. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the room as the listeners imagined a life where the healing touch of water was shunned, where the act of cleansing was fraught with fear and suspicion. Their minds wandered to the streets of a medieval town where the air was thick with the mingled scents of humanity and earth, and where the cobblestones bore the marks of countless feet. Yet, in the midst of this, there were those who sought solace in the ancient practices of the past. The storyteller continued, her eyes gleaming with the firelight's reflection. The herbalists, the wise women, they knew the secrets of the earth, the power of the roots and leaves that grew in the shadowed corners of the forest. Her words conjured images of gnarled hands tending to gardens hidden beneath the boughs of ancient oaks, of herbs hung to dry in the rafters of humble cottages, their scents mingling to create potions of protection and purification. The villagers could almost taste the bitter tang of the concoctions, feel the cool touch of a salve upon their skin. And then there were the rituals, she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The midnight gatherings beneath the full moon, where the air was thick with the scent of incense and the chants of those who sought to cleanse their spirits as well as their bodies. The villagers leaned in closer, their senses attuned to the rhythm of her words as she spoke of ceremonies held in secret, of rites that blended the mystical with the mundane. They could almost see the flickering shadows of figures dancing in the moonlight, hear the soft murmur of incantations carried on the night breeze. Outside, the wind picked up, rustling through the leaves with a sound that seemed to echo the whisper of the storyteller's voice. The rain began to patter gently against the windows, adding its own rhythm to the symphony of the night, a soft accompaniment to the tale that unfolded within the warmth of the cottage. In the end, she said, her voice a soft sigh, it was not always the grand gestures, the sweeping changes that shaped the lives of the people. It was the small moments, the shared stories, the whispered secrets passed from generation to generation that wove the fabric of their existence. The villagers nodded, understanding the truth in her words, feeling the weight of their own stories, their own histories, resting gently upon their shoulders. They were part of the same tapestry, a living link in the chain of time that stretched back to those distant days. As the rain continued its gentle descent, the storyteller's voice began to fade like the last notes of a lullaby, leaving behind a silence that was rich with possibility. The villagers sat in quiet contemplation, their minds filled with the images and echoes of the past as the fire crackled softly, casting dancing shadows upon the walls. And beyond the walls of the cottage, the night held its breath, cradling the village in its gentle embrace. As the stories of the past mingled with the dreams of the present, weaving a tapestry of wonder and mystery that would linger long after the last embers had cooled. The rain had not ceased its rhythmic patter, a soft percussion on the thatched roofs and cobblestones, each droplet a whisper from the heavens. The village seemed to sigh in unison with the rain, as if exhaling a breath held since the beginning of time. It was a night that blurred the boundaries between the real and the fantastical, where the veil between worlds felt thin enough to touch. Inside the cottage, the flickering firelight continued to paint its amber strokes against the walls, and the villagers, wrapped in their woolen cloaks, leaned back into the embrace of the old wooden benches. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and burning wood, a comforting aroma that spoke of home and hearth. From her seat by the hearth, old Matilda, the village midwife, adjusted her shawl and broke the contemplative silence. Her voice was rich and warm, carrying the authority of one who had seen much and understood more. "Ah, but let us not forget," she began, her eyes twinkling with mischief, "those tales of old and the peculiar ways of our ancestors. For even as we sit here, wrapped in the warmth of our stories, there are shadows of habits long past that would curl the toes of even the bravest among us." The villagers leaned in, curiosity piqued. Matilda had that rare gift of turning even the most mundane of topics into something imbued with magic and intrigue. "You see," she continued, "in those days, Hygiene was a stranger to many. The river was both bath and sewer, and the streets, oh, they were the domain of all manner of filth. But it wasn't just the streets. No, even the sanctity of one's own home was not spared. She paused, letting her words settle like dust on the air before weaving her tale further. Imagine, if you will, beds of straw shared not only with family, but with the invisible armies of mites and fleas. The children would scratch and wriggle, their sleep punctuated by the tiny bites of these unseen foes. And yet they slept on, dreaming dreams that soared above the discomforts of their reality. The villagers exchanged glances, a mixture of disbelief and fascination playing across their features. The world of their ancestors felt both distant and eerily familiar, a reflection distorted yet recognizable. But it wasn't just the bedding, Matilda continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The very air they breathed was thick with smoke from hearth fires, for chimneys were a luxury not yet imagined. The soot would settle on everything, coating skin and lungs alike, weaving its own dark tapestry upon the walls of their homes. A shiver passed through the room, not from cold, but from the vividness of her description. The villagers could almost feel the grit upon their own skin, taste the acrid tang of smoke upon their tongues. And yet, Matilda said, her tone growing softer, there was a kind of resilience in it all, a toughness of spirit that was born not of choice but of necessity. They lived, they loved, they thrived despite the hardships, finding joy in the simplest of things, a warm fire, a shared meal, the laughter of children. The rain outside seemed to intensify, a symphony of nature accompanying her words, as if the world itself was listening, nodding in agreement. Of course, she added with a playful smile, there were those who sought remedies, peculiar as they might seem to us now. Garlic worn around the neck, vinegar baths to ward off illness, and charms to keep the spirits at bay. Superstitions, perhaps, but in their hearts they believed, and sometimes belief is the strongest magic of all. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, for they all understood the power of belief, the way it could light even the darkest of paths. And what of the night? Someone asked, a young man whose eyes held the spark of youthful curiosity. Ah, the night, Matilda replied, her voice taking on a lyrical quality. The night was a realm of its own, a time when the world seemed to pause, holding its breath as the shadows stretched and yawned. It was a time of dreams, of stories told in whispers, of fears given form in the flickering candlelight. She leaned forward, her face illuminated by the glow of the fire, her expression one of deep introspection. For it was in the night that the mind wandered most freely, weaving tales from the threads of its own imaginings. The darkness held 1,000 secrets, and among them the promise of a new dawn. The villagers fell silent once more, each lost in their own thoughts, the spell of the night woven tightly around them. The rain had become a gentle lullaby, coaxing them into a state of tranquility, even as Matilda's words lingered in the air like the ghost of an ancient melody. It was then that a sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, a reminder of the world beyond, where the storm still held sway. The fire flickered, casting a momentary shadow that danced across the walls like a phantom, a fleeting glimpse of the mysteries that lay beyond the realm of the known. Matilda chuckled softly, a sound like the rustle of autumn leaves. The storm is restless tonight, she mused, her eyes reflecting the firelight. Perhaps it too has stories to tell, secrets carried on the wind from distant lands. There was a pause, a moment of shared understanding among the villagers. The night, with its rain and wind and whispered tales, had become a living thing, a participant in their gathering, a reminder of the interconnectedness of all things. As the hour grew late, the villagers began to rise, stretching limbs stiff from sitting. They bid farewell to Matilda, their hearts full of gratitude for the story she had shared, for the glimpse into a past that was both foreign and familiar. Stepping out into the rain, they found the world transformed, the village streets glistening under the soft caress of the moonlight that had finally broken through the clouds. It was as if the earth itself had been washed clean, renewed by the storm. The villagers made their way to their homes, their minds still echoing with the tales of old, their spirits buoyed by the shared experience. The night air was cool and refreshing, a balm for the soul, and as they settled into their own beds, no longer straw but soft wool and linen, they carried with them the comfort of the stories, the warmth of the fire, and the promise of dreams yet to come. And so the village slept, cradled by the gentle embrace of the night, as the rain continued to fall, a tender serenade that would linger in their hearts long after the dawn had broken. The village slumbered under the velvet canopy of the night, the rain a whispering lullaby that wove through the tapestry of dreams. Each droplet that kissed the earth murmured secrets of the past, etching stories into the soil, a delicate script that only those who dared to listen could decipher. The villagers, nestled in their warm beds, drifted between worlds where the boundaries of reality blurred with the phantoms of history. In one such dreamscape, a young woman named Eloian found herself wandering through the shadowy corridors of time. The air felt thick with history, each breath a taste of the past, laden with the scent of wood smoke and herbs. The world around her was vibrant, yet dim, like an ancient tapestry hung in a forgotten hall, its colors muted by the passage of countless seasons. Eloian walked through narrow, winding streets, her footsteps silent on the cobblestones, slick with rain. The village was both familiar and strange, its outlines softened by the mist of memory. Houses leaned towards one another, their timber frames and wattle and daub walls standing as testament to both the ingenuity and the hardship of those who had built them. She felt the pulse of life that had once thrummed here, the echoes of laughter and song, the murmur of barter and trade, the cries of children at play. Yet beneath this vibrant tableau, a darker current flowed. Eloian could sense it in the very stones beneath her feet, in the way the shadows clung to the corners of her vision. It was the murmur of lives lived in grime and grit, where the struggle for cleanliness was a battle fought daily, often lost to the relentless tide of dirt and disease. She turned a corner and found herself in a courtyard where a group of women sat, their hands busy with the rhythm of work. They scrubbed linens with an intensity that spoke of necessity, their faces lined with care and determination. Buckets of water stood beside them, drawn from a nearby well, the liquid cloudy with the remnants of soap root and ash. Here the air was thick with the scent of lye, sharp and acrid, mingling with the earthy undertones of wet stone and clay. Eloian watched as the women exchanged stories and gossip, their voices a lilting cadence that rose and fell like the tide. Despite the harshness of their labor, there was a camaraderie among them, a shared resilience that bound them together against the hardships of their world. As she listened, Elowen's attention was caught by an old woman sitting slightly apart from the others, her hands moving deftly over a pile of herbs. She was crafting small bundles of rosemary and lavender, their fragrance a rare balm against the harsher scents of their surroundings. The old woman's eyes met Elowen's, and there was a knowing in them, a wisdom that transcended time and space. "You see, child," the old woman said, her voice a gentle murmur that seemed to reverberate through the very air. "We do what we can to keep the filth at bay, but the earth has her own ways. We fight against her, but she always returns, creeping into our homes, our clothes, our very skin. Yet, within her embrace, we find life. Do not fear the dirt, for it is part of us, part of this world." Elowen nodded, understanding that this was a lesson both simple and profound. The dirt, the grime, the filth, they were not just enemies to be vanquished, but elements of a life fully lived, a life marked by struggle and perseverance. Her journey through this dreamscape continued, each step taking her deeper into the heart of the village. She passed by a narrow alley where children played, their laughter ringing like bells in the night. Their games were simple, their joy unmarred by the filth that clung to their feet and hands. They were creatures of the earth, unburdened by the weight of knowledge, living in a world where the boundaries between clean and unclean were not yet fully drawn. Elowen's path led her to a small apothecary shop, its windows fogged with steam and the scent of herbs and spices seeping into the street. Inside, a man was grinding roots and leaves with a mortar and pestle, his hands moving with the precision of long practice. Shelves lined the walls, crowded with jars and vials, each holding the promise of healing or harm. The apothecary glanced up as Elowen entered, his eyes sharp and assessing. "Ah, another seeker of secrets," he said, his voice like the rustle of leaves in the wind. "You come to learn of the potions and salves that stave off the pestilence, that cleanse the body and spirit?" Elowen nodded, drawn to the promise of knowledge that could bridge the gap between the past and the present. She watched as the apothecary mixed a tincture, his movements a dance of alchemy and art, the liquid within the vial shifting from one hue to another, a kaleidoscope of potential. "Remember this," he said softly, his gaze meeting hers. "In every remedy there lies a shadow, and in every shadow a light. The balance is delicate, and it is up to us to find it, to tread the line between healing and harm." With these words, Elowen felt the dream begin to fade, the edges of her vision dissolving into mist. She awoke in her bed, the sound of rain still a gentle patter against the thatch above, her heart full of the stories she had gathered, the lessons learned in a world where cleanliness was a luxury and filth an ever-present companion. The village, too, stirred from its slumber, the dawn painting the sky with hues of rose and gold. The rain had ceased, leaving the world fresh and new, a canvas upon which the day's stories would be written. The villagers emerged from their homes, their steps sure and purposeful, their hearts bound by the shared tapestry of dreams and reality. As the sun climbed higher, its warmth banishing the chill of the night, Elowen joined the others in the village square. There, beneath the spreading boughs of the ancient oak, they gathered once more, drawn together by the threads of history and hope. They spoke of the dreams that had visited them, the tales that had unfolded in the quiet of the night, each voice weaving a new chapter in the story of their lives. And so, the village lived on, cradled by the embrace of the past, the present, and the future, its people bound together by the enduring dance of light and shadow, cleanliness and grime, life and death. In every breath, they carried the essence of their world, a world both beautiful and brutal, a world where the dark side of medieval hygiene was but one note in a symphony of existence. As the villagers congregated, their voices mingling like the gentle babble of a brook, Elowen found herself at the heart of the gathering. The ancient oak, its gnarled branches swaying softly in the morning breeze, stood as a silent witness to their assembly. It had seen generations come and go, their stories whispered into the wind, carried away, and then folded into the earth beneath their feet. The air was thick with the aroma of freshly baked bread, mingling with the earthy scent of the soil that had been turned by the plow. It was a comforting juxtaposition, a reminder of the simple pleasures that sustained them amidst the hardships of their lives. Yet, beneath this veneer of normalcy, a quiet tension simmered, a tension born of the unspoken realities that lay in the shadows of their everyday existence. Among the villagers, a storyteller, renowned for his vivid tales, began to speak. His voice, a rich melodic cadence that held the listeners in thrall. His stories, woven with threads of truth and fantasy, were tales of distant lands and ancient legends of heroes and villains and of the unseen forces that shaped their world. But today, he chose a tale closer to home, a tale that resonated with the hidden fears and hopes that lurked in the hearts of all who listened. As he spoke, the villagers leaned in, their eyes wide and attentive. The storyteller's words painted vivid images in their minds, transporting them to a time when the land was young and the boundaries between the natural and the supernatural were thin and permeable. He spoke of the spirits that dwelled in the woods, of the guardian creatures that watched over the village, and of the ancient pacts that bound them all in a delicate balance. But as his tale unfolded, it took a darker turn. He spoke of the unseen toll that life in this medieval world exacted on its inhabitants. The lack of knowledge about hygiene and the basic principles of cleanliness was a shadow that loomed large over their lives, a specter that whispered of disease and decay. The villagers knew this well, for they had all lost someone to the ravages of illness, an ever-present reminder of their mortality. Elowen listened, her mind drawn to the memories of her own family, to the faces that had faded into the past. The storyteller's words, though familiar, struck a chord deep within her. They echoed the silent fears that had gripped her heart on many a sleepless night. The fear of losing those she loved, the fear of the unknown that lay beyond the thin veil of their reality. Yet, even as this darkness settled over them, the villagers found solace in the storyteller's voice, for in his tales they found a reflection of their own struggles and triumphs. They found a reminder that they were not alone, that their lives were part of a larger tapestry woven with both beauty and suffering. As the story drew to a close, the villagers sat in silence, absorbing the weight of the words that had been spoken. It was a moment of collective introspection, a quiet acknowledgement of the challenges they faced and the resilience that defined them. And then, as if on cue, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the ancient oak, and the spell was broken. The villagers stirred, their gazes turning to one another, their expressions a mixture of contemplation and resolve. they rose to their feet, their movements slow and deliberate, as if savoring the moment before returning to the rhythm of their daily lives. Helawan lingered for a moment, her gaze drawn to the storyteller. His eyes met hers, and for a brief instant they shared a silent understanding, a recognition of the unspoken bond that connected them all. She offered him a small smile, and he nodded in return, a gesture of mutual respect and gratitude. With renewed purpose, Elowen turned away from the gathering, her thoughts a swirl of emotion and reflection. She made her way through the village, her footsteps carrying her past familiar landmarks, the well where the women gathered to draw water, the blacksmith's forge with its ever-present glow, the fields where the crops stood tall and proud. As she walked, she contemplated the delicate balance of their existence, the dance between light and shadow that defined their lives. She thought of the lessons they had learned from the past, the knowledge they had gained through trial and error, and the hope that guided them toward a brighter future. In the quiet of her heart, Elowen whispered a silent prayer, a plea for wisdom and strength in the face of adversity. She understood that their world was one of contrasts, a world where cleanliness and grime coexisted, where life and death were inseparable companions. It was a world that demanded resilience and adaptability, a world that required them to find beauty in the midst of hardship. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the village, Elowen reached her home. She paused at the threshold, her gaze lingering on the familiar contours of the place she called her own. It was a humble dwelling, but it held within its walls the essence of her life, the memories of those who had come before, and the promise of those yet to come. Stepping inside, she was greeted by the comforting warmth of the hearth, the scent of herbs hanging in the air, and the gentle hum of domestic activity. It was a scene that spoke of continuity and connection, a reminder that they were all part of something greater than themselves. Elowen moved through the space, her fingers brushing against the worn surfaces, her senses attuned to the life that pulsed around her. She knew that the challenges they faced were many, but she also knew that they possessed the strength to overcome them. For in this world of contrasts, they had learned to find harmony, not by eradicating the shadows, but by embracing them as part of the whole. And so, as the day gave way to night, Elowen settled into the rhythms of her life, her heart at peace with the knowledge that they were all bound together by the enduring dance of existence. She closed her eyes, her thoughts drifting on the gentle currents of dreams that awaited her, ready to weave yet another chapter in the tapestry of their shared story. As the night descended gently over the village, wrapping it in a shroud of darkness and mystery, the air grew thick with the symphony of crickets and distant owls, their calls echoing like ancient incantations. The moon, shy and veiled behind a film of clouds, cast a silvery glow upon the cobblestones and thatched roofs, turning the world into a realm of shadows and whispers. Elowen lay on her pallet, the rough fabric beneath her a familiar comfort, her eyes closed, yet her mind alert to the subtle shifts in the world around her. The room was redolent with the scents of lavender and chamomile. Herbs hung to dry, their calming aromas weaving a spell of tranquility. But beneath this peaceful veneer lay the deeper, earthier sense of a medieval home, damp wood, hay, and the faint trace of animals bedding down for the night. Her thoughts drifted, not unlike the curl of smoke from the dying fire, to the tales old as time, whispered by generations before her. Stories of bravery and fear, of love and loss, all interwoven into the fabric of their existence. In these tales, she found solace, a reminder that life's imperfections were merely threads in a grander tapestry. But tonight, her mind lingered on the darker corners of their world, those aspects of life that were often brushed aside like cobwebs in a corner. She thought of the stream that wound its way through the village, a lifeline that provided water, yet also carried the refuse of daily life. It was a place where life thrived and died, where beauty and decay danced an eternal waltz. The villagers, with their deep-rooted traditions, had a relationship with cleanliness that was both pragmatic and perilous. Bathing was a rare luxury, an indulgence often reserved for the more fortunate or the gravely ill, when the purifying effects of water were called upon to cleanse both body and soul. Instead, the people relied on a variety of methods to maintain a semblance of hygiene, methods that to the unaccustomed eye might seem as peculiar as they were fascinating. Elowen recalled the communal latrines, rudimentary constructions that stood away from the main living quarters. These were places of necessity, but also of discomfort, where the stench of human waste mingled with the earthy aroma of straw and the sharp tang of lime used to cover the evidence of human presence. It was said that the latrines were watched over by spirits, creatures of shadow and muck, guardians of the filth who whispered secrets to those who dared listen. And then there were the night pots, vessels of clay or metal that sat in the corners of homes, their presence a testament to practicality over propriety. These pots, emptied discreetly at dawn, were a reminder of the human condition, a humbling acknowledgement of needs that transcended social standing. Yet, amidst these less savory aspects of medieval life, there was an art to preserving dignity and comfort. The villagers crafted perfumes and scented oils, concoctions of rose petals and spices to mask the odors of living. They wore sachets of herbs upon their persons, small pouches filled with lavender and rosemary, carried like talismans against the pervasive sense of humanity. As Elowen's thoughts meandered through this landscape of contrasts, she felt the stirrings of curiosity, a desire to understand more deeply the balance between necessity and tradition, between the practical and the spiritual. She thought of the wise women of the village, keepers of lore and remedies, who, with their knowledge of plants and potions, navigated the fine line between health and harm. In the quiet of the night, Elowen resolved to visit one such woman, an elder known as Maud, whose wisdom was revered and whose remedies were sought by many. It was said Maud had lived through plagues and famines, her spirit unyielding, her hands gentle yet firm as they dispensed both healing and advice. The thought of Maud brought a smile to Elowen's lips, a warmth that chased away the lingering shadows. She imagined the old woman in her cottage, surrounded by shelves lined with jars of dried herbs, their labels written in a spidery script. It was a place of magic and medicine, where the air was thick with the scent of sage and thyme, where the boundaries between the mundane and the mystical blurred. And so, as sleep finally claimed her, Elowen's dreams were filled with visions of Maud's cottage, of healing brews and whispered incantations. She dreamt of walking through fields of lavender, the purple blooms stretching as far as the eye could see, their fragrance carried on the wind like a promise. The night passed in a gentle ebb and flow, the hours marked by the distant tolling of the church bell, a rhythmic reminder of time's passage. As dawn broke, its light timidly washing over the village, Elowen awoke with a sense of purpose, a resolve to seek out Maud and unravel the mysteries that lay hidden in the folds of their everyday lives. The morning air was crisp and cool, carrying with it the scents of dew-laden grass and the faint smoke of breakfast fires. Elowen dressed quickly, her heart light with anticipation as she stepped out into the world, the sun casting long shadows that danced upon the cobblestones. Her path to Maud's cottage took her through the heart of the village, past the market square where vendors were setting up their stalls, their voices rising in a chorus of greetings and haggles. The air was alive with the smells of fresh bread and ripe fruit, a sensory feast that spoke of abundance and sustenance. As she walked, Elowen's eyes took in the familiar sights: the blacksmith's forge, the church with its weathered stone walls, the children playing in the streets, their laughter a bright thread in the tapestry of village life. Each step brought her closer to her destination, to the wisdom she sought, to the stories that awaited her. Maud's cottage stood at the edge of the village, nestled amidst a grove of ancient oaks that whispered secrets of their own. The door, a sturdy piece of wood marked by years and weather, creaked open under Elowen's gentle knock. Inside, the air was warm and inviting, filled with the scents of herbs and the soft crackle of a hearth fire. Maud greeted her with a smile, her eyes bright with the wisdom of ages, her hands as steady as the earth itself. Together, they delved into the mysteries of their world, exploring the delicate balance between health and hygiene, between the seen and the unseen. Elowen listened, her heart open to the stories and knowledge that Maud shared, her mind weaving these threads into the ever-growing tapestry of her understanding. The day unfolded in a dance of learning and laughter, as Elowen discovered not only the secrets of herbal remedies, but also the deeper truths of their existence. She came to see that in embracing the shadows, they found strength, and in accepting their imperfections, they discovered beauty. As the sun dipped below the horizon once more, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Elowen returned home, her heart full, her spirit renewed. She knew that in the dance of shadows and light, they would continue to find their way, bound together by the enduring rhythm of life. The night settled over the village like a velvet cloak, the air perfumed with the rich scent of damp earth and the distant whisper of the sea. Stars began to prick the sky, tiny diamonds scattered across a deep indigo expanse as Elowen prepared for the evening ritual of rest. The world around her seemed to breathe in unison, a symphony of nocturnal sounds that lulled the mind and filled the soul with a quiet sense of belonging. In the modest confines of her room, Elowen lit a candle, its flickering flame casting dancing shadows upon the walls. This was a sacred time, a moment to reflect and unwind, to let the echoes of the day's discoveries settle gently into her being. The room breathed around her, each creak of the floorboards and rustle of the wind outside, a reminder of the life that thrived in every corner of her world. As she sat by the window, the cool breeze caressing her face, her thoughts drifted back to the tales Maud had shared. The old midwife had spun stories of ancient practices, of remedies drawn from the earth and the stars, of a time when the boundaries between the physical and the spiritual were but gossamer threads. Elowen's imagination wandered through these tales, painting vivid pictures of a world where the line between the mundane and the mystical was blurred, where the unseen forces of nature held sway over the lives of the people. Yet, amid the beauty and wonder, there lingered a shadow, a darker side to the tapestry of their existence. In the dim light, Elowin's mind turned to the less savory aspects of medieval life, the grim realities that her people faced each day. It was a world where hygiene was an elusive concept, where the very air they breathed could be both a balm and a bane. She thought of the narrow, winding streets of the village where the scent of humanity mingled with the fragrance of wildflowers and the tang of the sea. It was a place where the boundaries of personal space were permeable, where the habits of one could swiftly become the burden of another. The communal nature of life meant that the village shared everything, from their joys and sorrows to their ailments and afflictions. Elowin recalled Maud's words about the importance of balance, of the dance between purity and impurity. The old midwife had spoken of the wisdom in dirt, the resilience it fostered within the body, a natural immunity born of necessity. Yet there was a fine line, a delicate balance that must be maintained lest the scales tip too far into darkness. With a sigh, Elowin turned her gaze to the landscape beyond her window. There lay the forest, a dark silhouette against the twilight sky, a place of mystery and magic, of shadows and secrets. The villagers knew well the power of the woods, the spirits that dwelled within, and they treated the land with a reverence born of both fear and respect. It was here that the remedies were found, the herbs and roots that held the power to heal or harm. Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft creak of the door. It was her younger brother, Alaric, his eyes wide with curiosity, his face alight with the innocence of youth. He padded softly across the room, his presence a warm reminder of the bonds that tied their family together. "Elowin," he whispered, his voice a soft melody in the quiet room, "tell me a story." She smiled, her heart swelling with affection for the boy who shared her blood, her dreams, her fears. Pulling him close, she wrapped an arm around his shoulders, drawing him into the circle of warmth and light. "What kind of story would you like to hear, Alaric?" she asked, her voice gentle, laced with the promise of adventure. He thought for a moment, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Tell me about the forest," he said at last, his words imbued with the wonder of the unknown, "about the spirits and the magic." Elowin nodded, her own heart quickening at the thought of the tales she had heard, the legends passed down through the generations. She spoke of the ancient trees, their roots deep in the earth, their branches reaching for the heavens, of the creatures that dwelled within, both seen and unseen, their presence felt in the rustle of leaves and the whisper of the wind. She wove a tapestry of words, painting a picture of a world where magic was real, where the boundaries between life and death, light and dark, were but illusions. She spoke of the spirits that guarded the forest, the guardians of the land who watched over the village, their eyes ever watchful, their hearts ever wise. As she spoke, she felt the familiar tug of the unseen, the sense that she was but a vessel for the stories that flowed through her, a conduit for the ancient wisdom that pulsed through the veins of the earth. Her voice rose and fell, a melody that danced on the air, weaving a spell that held them both in thrall. And as Alaric's eyes began to droop, his head resting against her shoulder, Elowin felt a sense of peace settle over her. In the quiet of the night, in the embrace of the darkness, she found solace in the knowledge that they were part of something greater, a tapestry of life that stretched beyond the confines of their village beyond the boundaries of time and space. As the candle flickered and died, its light swallowed by the shadows, Elowen held her brother close, her heart full of love and hope. For in the dance of shadows and light, in the balance of purity and impurity, she found the strength to face the challenges of their world, to embrace the beauty and the darkness that lay within. And as she drifted into sleep, her mind filled with dreams of the forest and the stories that lay within, she knew that they would continue to find their way, bound together by the enduring rhythm of life, guided by the light of the stars and the wisdom of the ancients. The night wrapped itself around the siblings like a tender shroud. The whispers of the forest outside their small, humble dwelling a lullaby that spoke of ancient times and forgotten lore. The air was cool and carried the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves, mingling with the faint traces of smoke that lingered from the extinguished candle. In this cocoon of night, Elowen and Alaric were adrift in a sea of dreams, their breaths soft and synchronized, rising and falling like the gentle waves upon a moonlit shore. The village lay silent beneath the cloak of darkness, its cobbled paths and thatched roofs bathed in the silvery glow of the moon. Yet even in this tranquility, the remnants of the day's toil and the echoes of lives lived under the weight of medieval customs lingered in the air. The people of the village, resilient and steadfast, navigated their days with a mixture of necessity and ritual, each action steeped in tradition, each habit a testament to their resilience in a world that demanded much and offered little in return. In the quiet hours of the night, the less savory aspects of their existence seemed distant, softened by the veil of sleep. But in the light of day, the realities of medieval hygiene emerged with a starkness that was difficult to ignore. Despite the passage of time, the rhythms of daily life were inextricably tied to the earth from which they had sprung, a mingling of purity and impurity that defined their existence. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the cracks in the wooden shutters, the village slowly stirred to life. The rooster's call pierced the morning air, a signal that the day had begun, and with it, the intricate dance of survival. Elowen and Alaric awoke to the familiar sounds of their world, the clatter of pots and pans, the murmur of voices, the rustle of hay as animals were tended to. Elowen rose from her straw-filled mattress, her movements languid and deliberate. She glanced at her brother, still half asleep, a soft smile playing on her lips. The warmth of the night lingered in her bones, a reminder of the connection they shared, a bond that transcended the trials of their time. As she prepared for the day, Elowen moved with a grace born of familiarity. She splashed her face with cold water from a wooden basin, the shock of it waking her fully, clearing the remnants of sleep from her mind. The water was drawn from the village well, a communal source of life that also hid unseen dangers. For in these medieval times, the understanding of cleanliness was rudimentary, and the concept of germs a distant whisper yet unheard. The villagers' hygiene practices were a blend of necessity and ignorance, shaped by the constraints of their environment and the knowledge available to them. Bathing was infrequent, a luxury afforded only on special occasions or when the discomfort of grime became too great to bear. Instead, they relied on the natural scents of the earth to mask their own, the aroma of herbs and flowers used to anoint the skin, a fragrant veil that could not entirely conceal the underlying truth. Ellawen dressed in simple garments, the fabric rough against her skin, a testament to the hard work that had gone into its making. She braided her hair with quick fingers, the strands thick and dark, a reflection of the soil from which they sprang. As she worked, her thoughts turned to the day's tasks, the chores that awaited her, the rituals that would guide her steps. In the heart of the village, life unfolded with a rhythm as ancient as the stones that lined the streets. The marketplace buzzed with activity, the air filled with the scents of fresh bread and ripe fruit, mingling with the less pleasant odors that were an inevitable part of communal life. The villagers went about their business, their laughter and chatter a counterpoint to the cries of hawkers and the clamor of livestock. Yet beneath this vibrant tapestry lay the darker threads of medieval hygiene, habits that spoke of the challenges of their time. Waste disposal was a rudimentary affair, often relegated to the outskirts where it mingled with the refuse of the animals, a pungent reminder of the limitations of their world. The streets, though swept with regularity, bore the marks of use and wear, the cobblestones slick with mud and other less pleasant substances. The villagers navigated these obstacles with a practicality born of necessity, their resilience a testament to their ability to endure. They took pride in their homes, their hearths a place of warmth and gathering, the heart of their existence. Yet even here, the shadows of their hygiene practices lingered, the remnants of meals left to linger, the air tinged with the scent of smoke and sweat. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Ellawen and Alaric joined the ebb and flow of village life, their tasks weaving them into the fabric of their community. They worked with diligence, their hands skilled and sure, their spirits buoyed by the camaraderie of shared endeavor. The challenges of their world were many, yet they faced them with a quiet determination, a belief in the strength of their bond, the enduring rhythm of life. And as the day drew to a close, the shadows lengthening as the light began to fade, a sense of peace settled over the village. The air cooled, the stars emerging one by one, a tapestry of light against the velvet sky. The villagers gathered around their fires, the warmth a balm against the chill, their laughter and stories a reminder of the ties that bound them. Ellawen and Alaric returned to their home, the night once more wrapping itself around them like a tender embrace. As they settled into their beds, their minds filled with the dreams of the forest, the stories that lay within, they knew that they were part of something greater, a tapestry of life that stretched beyond the confines of their village, beyond the boundaries of time and space. In the dance of shadows and light, in the balance of purity and impurity, they found the strength to face the challenges of their world, to embrace the beauty and the darkness that lay within. And as they drifted into sleep, their breaths soft and synchronized, they knew that they would continue to find their way, guided by the light of the stars and the wisdom of the ancients, bound together by the enduring rhythm of life. The night in the village settled into a gentle hush, a symphony of crickets and the distant hoots of an owl creating a lullaby for those who lay beneath the thatched roofs. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wood smoke, a reminder of the day's labors and the night's repose. Ellawen and Alaric lay side by side on their straw-stuffed mattress, the simple comfort of their shared warmth, a balm to the day's trials. In their sleep, they were visited by the spirits of the forest, each whispering tales of ancient trees and hidden glades, of the creatures that roamed free under the canopy of leaves. These dreams were vivid, more vivid than the waking world, painted in hues of emerald and gold, where the boundaries of reality and fantasy intertwined like the roots of a great oak. Elowin wandered through a dreamscape where the forest was alive with secrets, each leaf a page in a book of lore. She felt the cool touch of dew on her bare feet, a sensation that was both refreshing and grounding, as though the earth itself was welcoming her into its embrace. Around her, the air was alive with the songs of birds unknown to her waking ears, their melodies a secret language of the sky. Alaric, too, found himself in a dream, but his was a place of shadow and light, where the sun pierced through the canopy in fingers of gold. He walked among towering trees that whispered his name, their voices deep and resonant, like a father's call. He felt a kinship with these ancient sentinels, a recognition of the cycles of life and death that wove through their existence as surely as the seasons turned. In this twilight realm, both Elowin and Alaric encountered the darker corners of the forest, places where the light of the sun never reached, and the air was thick with the mystery of forgotten things. Here, the dreams turned more vivid, the senses heightened by the presence of unseen eyes watching from the shadows. It was a place that tested the heart, a realm where purity and impurity danced in eternal balance. Elowin found herself drawn to a clearing where the ground was soft with moss and the air was filled with the scent of wildflowers. In the center, a pool of water lay, its surface as smooth as glass, reflecting the sky above in perfect clarity. She knelt beside it, captivated by the way the world seemed to shimmer just beneath the surface. Here, she felt a deep peace, a connection to the earth and the stars, as though she was at the center of the universe. Alaric, meanwhile, walked through a grove where the trees grew close together, their branches forming a canopy so dense that it blocked out even the moonlight. Here, the air was cool and still, the only sound the soft rustle of leaves as a breeze wound its way through the boughs. He found himself face to face with a stag, its antlers a crown of branches, its eyes deep and knowing. In that moment, he felt a part of something timeless, a bond with the creatures of the wild that transcended the boundaries of man and beast. As the night wore on, their dreams deepened, and with them, the understanding that they were on a journey, not just through the forest, but through their own souls. Each step they took, each shadow they faced, brought them closer to a truth that lay hidden within, a knowledge that was both ancient and ever new. They were learning to trust in the rhythms of life, to see the beauty in the balance, and to embrace the darkness as an essential part of the light. Meanwhile, back in the waking world, the village slumbered, unaware of the silent tale unfolding in the dreams of its inhabitants. The fires had burned low, leaving only glowing embers that cast a gentle glow across the cobblestones. Night creatures stirred in the shadows, going about their own nocturnal business, their movements a reminder that life continued even in the dark. As dawn approached, a soft mist began to rise from the earth, curling around the trees and houses like a silken veil. It was a time of transformation, when the night relinquished its hold and the world was reborn in the light of a new day. Elowin and Alaric awoke with the first light, the dreams of the forest still lingering in their minds like the last notes of a song. They rose quietly, careful not to disturb the peace of the morning, and went about their tasks with a sense of purpose, as though they carried the wisdom of their dreams with them into the day. The village came to life around them, the sounds of voices and laughter filling the air as the sun climbed higher in the sky. But even as they went about their daily routines, there was a sense of anticipation, a knowledge that the dreams of the night were more than mere fantasies. They were a call to action, a reminder that they were part of something larger, a story that was still unfolding beneath the surface of their everyday lives. As the day wore on, Elowen and Alaric found themselves drawn back to the forest, to the places where their dreams had taken root. They walked together, hand in hand, feeling the cool earth beneath their feet and the warmth of the sun on their faces. The forest welcomed them, its leaves whispering secrets and promises in the gentle breeze. In the clearing where Elowen had knelt beside the pool, they paused, taking in the beauty of the place. The water was as clear as it had been in her dreams, and as they looked into its depths, they saw their own reflections looking back at them, framed by the sky and the trees. It was a moment of clarity, a reminder that they were part of the world around them, connected to the earth and the stars, to the cycles of life and death that shaped their existence. Together, they made a promise, a vow to honor the dreams that had guided them, to seek out the truth that lay hidden in the shadows, and to embrace the beauty and the darkness that lay within. It was a promise that would carry them forward through the challenges and triumphs that awaited them, bound together by the enduring rhythm of life. And as they turned to leave, the forest seemed to sigh in approval, the leaves rustling in a gentle chorus that echoed the promise they had made. With the sun setting behind them, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Elowen and Alaric made their way back to the village, their hearts light and their spirits lifted. They knew that their journey was far from over, that there were still secrets to uncover and truths to discover. But they faced the future with courage and hope, guided by the dreams of the night and the wisdom of the ancients. The village awaited them, a tapestry of stone and timber nestled against the rolling hills. Smoke curled lazily from chimneys, merging with the dusky sky, while the scent of wood smoke and earth mingled in the air. As Elowen and Alaric approached, the familiar sounds of evening settled around them. The distant lowing of cattle, the soft murmur of voices from cottages, and the rhythmic clatter of a blacksmith's hammer striking metal. These were the sounds of life, of continuity, resonating with the promise they had made beneath the ancient boughs. The path wound between the cottages, each a humble testament to the resilience and resourcefulness of those who dwelled within. Thatched roofs, weathered by time and elements, sagged under the weight of moss and lichen. Walls constructed from stone and mud bore the marks of generations, their surfaces etched with the stories of those who had come before. As they walked, Elowen's eyes were drawn to the familiar figure of old Maud, the village midwife, who sat outside her cottage, her gnarled hands busy with the mending of a basket. Her hair, a crown of silver, glinted in the fading light, and her eyes, sharp as a hawk's, followed their approach with a knowing gaze. She nodded in wordless acknowledgment, a silent blessing passing between them. The village was a living thing, its heart beating in time with the land, yet beneath its surface, hidden in the folds of daily life, lay the shadows of ancient practices, the remnants of customs that spoke of a time when understanding was cloaked in superstition and necessity bred habits that would seem foreign, even repugnant, to modern sensibilities. These practices, born of a medieval understanding of hygiene, lingered like ghosts, whispering of the past with each step Elowen and Alaric took. In the dim light of evening, the air was thick with a sense of humanity, a mingling of sweat, smoke, and the earthy tang of unwashed bodies. Bathing was a luxury, an event reserved for special occasions, and the layers of grime that clung to skin and fabric alike told stories of toil and survival. It was a world where water was a precious commodity, often shared by a household, with the eldest and most respected bathing first, leaving the youngest to rinse in murky remnants. The practice spoke of hierarchy and necessity, a ritual of survival in a time when cleanliness was a matter of practicality rather than preference. As Elowen and Alaric continued their path, they passed the butcher's shop, where the pungent aroma of cured meats and tallow filled the air. Here, the art of preservation was a skill honed by necessity, a testament to the ingenuity of those who sought to stave off hunger's relentless advance. Yet, it was also a place where the entrails of beasts were cast aside, left to rot in the sun, a reminder of the cycle of life and death that governed all. These sights and smells, both familiar and unsettling, were part of the tapestry of life, woven into the very fabric of existence. Elowen's thoughts drifted back to the promise they had made to seek truth and embrace the beauty and darkness within. The village, with its customs and contradictions, was a living embodiment of that duality, a reminder that the past was never truly gone, but living, breathing, shaping the present and the future. As they neared the center of the village, the flickering glow of torchlight illuminated the square, where the villagers gathered for the evening meal. Long tables, hewn from rough timber, were laden with bowls of stew and loaves of coarse bread, a feast of sustenance shared in communal spirit. Laughter and conversation rose into the night, a chorus of voices celebrating the harvest and the bonds of kinship. Elowen and Alaric joined the throng, finding a place among friends and neighbors, the warmth of community surrounding them like a cloak. Elowen's hand brushed against Alaric's, a gentle reminder of the promise they had made, a connection that transcended words. Together, they listened to the stories that flowed around them, tales of hunts and harvests, of births and betrothals, each a thread in the vast tapestry of village life. But as the night deepened, shadows crept closer, weaving themselves into the fabric of the gathering. A hush fell over the crowd as old Maud rose to speak, her voice a thread of wisdom spun from years of experience, her words carrying the weight of tradition and the echoes of the past. "Listen well," she began, her eyes scanning the faces before her, "for the night holds secrets, and the dreams that visit us are not mere flights of fancy. They are the whispers of the earth, the voices of those who came before, guiding us through the darkness." Her words, steeped in mystery, held the crowd in thrall, and Elowen felt a shiver pass through her. The promise she and Alaric had made resonated in the silence, a beacon in the night, a reminder of the journey they had embarked upon. Old Maud continued, her voice a gentle lullaby. "In dreams, we find the truth, the hidden paths that lie beyond the veil of waking. It is there we must seek the answers, in the shadows that dance upon the edge of slumber." As the villagers listened, Elowen felt a stirring within her, a reminder of the visions that had guided her steps. She glanced at Alaric, his eyes reflecting the flickering light, and saw in him the same resolve, the same determination to seek out the truth and embrace the beauty and darkness within. The night wore on, the fire's glow casting long shadows that mingled with the darkness, and as the villagers retired to their homes, Elowen and Alaric remained, their hearts entwined, their promise a living thing, a flame that would light their path through the mysteries of the past and the challenges of the future. In the quiet of the village, under the watchful gaze of the stars, they sat together, their thoughts a tapestry of dreams and possibilities. The forest, the village, the world beyond, all were part of the journey, a journey shaped by the promise they had made, a journey that would lead them into the heart of the unknown. And as the night deepened, the village seemed to sigh in contentment, the earth breathing in rhythm with the stars, the promise of life and death, of beauty and darkness woven into the very fabric of existence. As the village settled into the embrace of night, the air grew colder, whispering secrets in the rustle of leaves and the soft murmur of the brook that wound its way through the heart of the forest. The moon hung low, a luminescent guardian watching over the land, casting a silver glow that danced upon the cobblestones and rooftops. Elowen and Alaric, their figures silhouetted against the pallor of night, remained by the dying embers of the hearth, the warmth a gentle reminder of the life that pulsed with quiet vigor around them. The village, though seemingly tranquil, harbored stories of old, tales of forgotten rituals and whispered legends, passed down through generations like precious heirlooms. Each story carried the weight of time, imbued with the essence of those who had lived and died, their histories etched into the stones and soil of the land. Elowen, with her keen mind and open heart, felt the pull of these stories, the allure of uncovering the truths buried beneath layers of dust and tradition. Alaric, too, was drawn to the mysteries that lay hidden in plain sight. His curiosity was a flame, burning bright against the shadows, illuminating paths yet unexplored. Together, they were bound by a shared desire to unravel the tapestry of their world, to seek understanding amidst the chaos and beauty that surrounded them. As the hours slipped by, they spoke in hushed tones, their words weaving a spell that bound them closer. They spoke of the customs that shaped their lives, the practices that, while familiar, carried with them an air of the arcane. In the medieval world, hygiene was an art shrouded in mystery and misconception, a dance between necessity and superstition. In those times, the boundary between cleanliness and the grotesque was fragile, a tightrope walked by every soul. The villagers, in their wisdom or folly, embraced rituals that to modern eyes might seem abhorrent, yet to them were as natural as the rising sun. Elowen recounted tales she had heard of how the people would bathe but once or twice a year, their bodies accustomed to the layers of earth and sweat that clung to them like a second skin. The infrequent bathing was not merely a matter of scarcity, but a belief in the protective power of dirt, a shield against the malevolent forces that lurked in unseen corners. Alaric added his own observations, speaking of the communal bathhouses that dotted the land, places where the water was shared by many, becoming a broth of humanity, a testament to the communal spirit and the intermingling of lives. The bathhouses were places of social gathering where business was conducted and alliances forged. The water a silent witness to the ebb and flow of human interaction. Yet, for all the camaraderie, there was also the specter of disease, lurking like a silent predator waiting to strike. The water, while cleansing, was also a carrier, a conduit for ailments that could decimate a village in the blink of an eye. It was a paradox, a dance of life and death, cleanliness and contagion entwined in an eternal waltz. Ellawen's voice grew soft, almost a whisper, as she spoke of the remedies and potions concocted by the village healers, mixtures of herbs and roots, their efficacy a blend of science and sorcery. The healers, with their arcane knowledge, were both revered and feared, their role as custodians of health a double-edged sword. Alaric nodded, recalling his own encounters with such remedies, the pungent aroma of garlic and vinegar, the soothing balm of lavender and chamomile. Each concoction was a story, a narrative of hope and desperation, of life clinging to the fragile thread that bound it to the earth. The night deepened, the world outside their small circle of light receding into the shadows. Yet within there was warmth and light, a sanctuary against the encroaching darkness. They spoke of the daily rituals that defined their lives, the simple acts that carried profound meaning. Hand-washing, a ritual observed with reverence, was a liturgy of purification, the water a sacrament that cleansed not just the body, but the soul. The act was accompanied by murmured prayers, invocations to deities both ancient and new, a plea for protection in a world where danger lurked at every turn. Ellawen shared her fascination with the fragrances that permeated their world, the scents of rosemary and thyme, of rosewater and myrrh, each a note in the symphony of life. The villagers used these scents to mask the odor of unwashed bodies, creating a tapestry of aromas that danced on the breeze, a testament to their ingenuity and resilience. Alaric chuckled, recalling the pomanders that hung from their belts, small orbs filled with fragrant herbs and spices, a portable garden that warded off the stench of decay and disease. These talismans were both practical and symbolic, a shield against the unseen forces that threatened their existence. Their conversation meandered like the brook that wound through the village, touching upon the myriad aspects of life in their world. The medieval understanding of hygiene was a reflection of the times, a mirror held up to the complexities of existence, where the boundaries between the sacred and the profane, the beautiful and the grotesque, were blurred. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and rose, Ellawen and Alaric sat in silence, their minds a tapestry of thoughts and dreams. They had delved into the heart of the past, uncovering the truths hidden in the shadows, and now they emerged, their spirits renewed, their resolve strengthened. The village stirred, the sounds of life beginning to ripple through the air, a symphony of voices and footsteps, of doors creaking open and fires crackling to life. The world awoke, vibrant and alive, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Ellawen and Alaric rose, their bodies stiff from the night's vigil, yet their hearts light, buoyed by the promise of discovery and the journey that lay ahead. They stood together, silhouetted against the dawn, a testament to the enduring power of hope and the unbreakable bond between them. And as the village came to life, the promise they had made the night before lingered in the air, a living thing, a flame that would guide them through the mysteries of their world, illuminating the path to understanding and the beauty that lay hidden in the shadows. The morning sun stretched its golden fingers across the village, casting long, gentle shadows that danced across cobblestone paths and wooden doorsteps. The air was crisp, carrying with it the scent of dew-kissed earth and the faint aroma of baking bread. Elowen and Alaric stood at the threshold of a new day, the promise of adventure whispering in the breeze that ruffled their hair and tugged at their cloaks. With the weight of the night's revelation still heavy on their minds, they set off, their footsteps in harmony with the waking world around them. The village, a tapestry of old stones and thatched roofs, seemed to hold its breath in anticipation, as if it too awaited the unraveling of secrets long buried. Their path led them through narrow lanes lined with towering oaks, their gnarled branches reaching toward the sky like ancient sentinels. The leaves rustled softly, a language of their own, speaking of time's passage and the stories held within their rings. Elowen found comfort in their presence, feeling as though each tree watched over them, guardians of the tales they sought to uncover. As they journeyed deeper into the heart of the village, they encountered the bustling rhythm of daily life. Merchants set up their stalls in the square, their voices a chorus of barter and banter. Children darted between the stalls, their laughter bright and infectious, a reminder of innocence untouched by the darker truths their elders carried. The air was rich with the scent of spices and the sounds of old songs, weaving a tapestry of vibrancy against the backdrop of medieval simplicity. Elowen and Alaric paused at a small stall where an old woman sat, her hands busy with a spindle spinning yarn the color of twilight. Her eyes, sharp and knowing, met theirs with a spark of recognition. "Travelers," she greeted, her voice like the rustle of leaves in a gentle wind. "What brings you to these parts so early?" "We seek the wisdom of the past," Alaric replied, his voice steady and respectful, "to understand what has been forgotten." The old woman nodded, setting aside her spindle. "The past is a fickle companion," she said, her gaze distant as if peering into the fabric of time itself. "It holds both truth and shadow, beauty and decay. Be wary, for not all that is hidden is meant to be found." Elowen exchanged a glance with Alaric, their resolve unwavering. "We are prepared," she assured, her voice a melody of determination. "The shadows do not frighten us." The old woman smiled, a curve of lips that spoke of secrets untold. "Then go, seekers of truth. But remember, knowledge is a double-edged sword. It can illuminate, but it can also cut." With her words echoing in their minds, they took their leave, their path now leading them toward the outskirts of the village, where the remnants of an ancient forest awaited. The trees grew denser, their trunks thick and their canopies forming a ceiling of green that filtered the sunlight into a soft, dappled glow. Here, the air was different, imbued with the scent of moss and earth, a living memory of the world before. As they walked, the conversation flowed between them like a gentle stream, carrying tales of the past and dreams of the future. Alaric spoke of legends he had heard in his youth, of knights and castles, of battles fought for honor and love. Elowen listened with rapt attention, her imagination painting vivid pictures of valor and glory. Yet, beneath their words lay the unspoken understanding of the darker side of history, the truths often glossed over in tales of heroism. The medieval world was not just the realm of chivalry and courtly love. It was also a place where hygiene was a luxury few could afford. Here, in the heart of the forest, they found themselves pondering the more unsavory aspects of life in times gone by. The medieval era, with its grand castles and bustling marketplaces, was also a time when the understanding of cleanliness was vastly different from their own. Bathing was a rarity, a practice often regarded with suspicion and sometimes even disdain. The rivers and streams, sources of life and sustenance, were often tainted by the very people who relied on them. Waste was disposed of in the streets, mingling with the soil, a crude reminder of the coexistence of beauty and filth. As they walked, the forest seemed to whisper these stories to them, the rustle of leaves a reminder of the footsteps of those who had come before. The path led them to a clearing where a small brook babbled softly, its waters clear and inviting. They paused here, the tranquility of the place wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Elawan knelt by the brook, her fingers trailing through the cool water, sending ripples dancing across its surface. It's strange to think, she mused, that something so pure and refreshing could have been so neglected in the past. Alaric joined her, his gaze thoughtful. Perhaps it's a reminder, he said, that even in darkness there is light, that even in neglect there is the potential for renewal. They sat together by the brook, the sun filtering through the leaves above, casting patterns of light and shadow on the forest floor. It was a moment of peace, a pause in their journey where time seemed to stretch and bend, allowing them to reflect on the path they had chosen. And yet, beneath the surface of serenity, there lingered a thread of suspense, a tension that hummed in the air like a distant storm. The forest, for all its beauty, held its own secrets, its own mysteries that waited to be unearthed. The promise of discovery, of understanding, was both a beacon and a warning, a reminder that the past was never truly gone, only waiting to be found. As they rose to continue their journey, the forest seemed to shift around them, the trees leaning closer as if to listen to their passage. Each step they took was a step into the unknown, a step toward the truths they sought and the shadows they would illuminate. The path wound deeper, leading them toward the heart of the forest, where the air grew cooler and the light dimmer, a world untouched by time. Here, in the depths of the ancient wood, Elawan and Alaric felt the weight of their quest settle upon them, a mantle of responsibility and wonder. They moved forward with a sense of purpose, their hearts beating in unison with the rhythm of the forest, their souls intertwined with the tapestry of history they sought to unravel. The journey was far from over, and the road ahead was fraught with challenges and revelations yet unseen. But together, they would face whatever lay in wait, guided by the light of their shared resolve and the promise of a world reborn. As they ventured deeper into the forest, an aura of mystery enveloped them, each rustle of leaves a whisper of ages past, each shadow a keeper of secrets untold. The trees stood as sentinels of forgotten times, their ancient bark etched with the stories of those who had walked these paths long before Elawan and Alaric. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the sweet decay of fallen leaves, a reminder of the cycle of life and death that governed this sacred place. Their journey had become a pilgrimage into the heart of the unknown, where the past and present intertwined in an intricate dance. Elawan, her senses attuned to the subtle changes around her, could feel the pulse of the earth beneath her feet, a silent drumbeat that guided her steps. Alaric, ever the watchful guardian, scanned their surroundings with a keen eye. His warrior's instincts, honed by years of battles, fought and won. The forest, an eternal witness to the passage of time, seemed to breathe with them, its essence seeping into their very bones. It was as if the trees themselves held the wisdom they sought, their branches entwined like the threads of an ancient tapestry, each leaf a note in the symphony of nature's song. The further they traveled, the more they felt the weight of the forest's gaze upon them, a presence both comforting and daunting. As the path twisted and turned, they stumbled upon a clearing bathed in an ethereal light, the sun filtering through the canopy in golden shafts that danced upon the forest floor. Here, the air was different, charged with an energy that tingled against their skin. Elowen paused, her heart quickening with a mixture of anticipation and unease. There was something about this place, something that called to her on a level she could not fully comprehend. "Do you feel it, Alaric?" she asked, her voice a soft murmur in the hushed stillness. Alaric nodded, his gaze fixed on the center of the clearing where an ancient stone altar stood, weathered by time, but still exuding a powerful aura. "This place holds power," he replied, his voice laced with reverence. "It is as if the very earth remembers." Together they approached the altar, their footsteps barely disturbing the delicate balance of the clearing. As they drew closer, Elowen felt a pull, an invisible thread that seemed to connect her to the stone, to the history embedded within its very core. She reached out, her fingers brushing against the cool surface, and in that moment a flood of visions washed over her. Images of the past unfolded before her eyes, vivid and palpable. She saw villagers gathered around the altar, their faces solemn with the weight of ritual. She saw healers tending to the sick, their hands gentle as they applied salves and potions crafted from the forest's bounty. She saw the cycle of life and death played out in a continuous loop, each generation leaving its mark upon the land. Alaric watched in awe as Elowen stood transfixed, her eyes glazed with the visions that danced before her. He could feel the energy swirling around them, a tempest of emotions and memories that transcended the boundaries of time. It was as if the forest itself was speaking through her, revealing the truths they had come to seek. Finally, Elowen withdrew her hand, the connection severed, but the knowledge she had gained etched into her soul. She turned to Alaric, her eyes shining with a newfound understanding. "The forest has shown me the past," she said, her voice trembling with the weight of revelation. "We are not the first to seek answers here, but we must learn from those who came before us." Alaric nodded, his expression one of solemn determination. "Then we must continue," he said, his voice steady. "The path ahead is uncertain, but we have the strength of those who walked it before us." With renewed resolve, they left the clearing behind, the altar standing as a silent guardian of the secrets they had uncovered. The forest closed around them once more, its shadows deepening as the sun dipped below the horizon. Night embraced the land, wrapping the world in a cloak of darkness that was both comforting and foreboding. As they walked, the sounds of the forest came alive, a symphony of nocturnal creatures going about their nightly rituals. The hoot of an owl echoed through the trees, a solitary sentry keeping watch over the slumbering world. The rustle of leaves whispered of creatures unseen, their movements hidden beneath the cover of night. In the distance, a faint glow appeared, a beacon of light in the sea of darkness. Elowen and Alaric quickened their pace, drawn toward the source of illumination. As they neared, the glow resolved into the flickering flames of a campfire, its warm light casting dancing shadows upon the trees. Around the fire sat a group of travelers, their faces weary but welcoming, as Elowen and Alaric approached. The travelers hailed from various lands, their attire a patchwork of cultures and traditions that spoke of journeys long and far. They greeted the newcomers with smiles and gestures of hospitality, inviting them to join their circle. Grateful for the warmth and companionship, Eowyn and Alaric accepted the invitation, settling by the fire as the travelers shared stories of their own quests and adventures. The night wore on, the fire crackling merrily as laughter and tales mingled in the crisp air. It was a moment of respite, a chance to rest and gather strength for the road ahead. As the night deepened, the travelers began to drift into slumber. Their dreams carried on the gentle breeze that whispered through the trees. Eowyn, too, felt the pull of sleep, her eyelids growing heavy as the warmth of the fire wrapped around her like a comforting embrace. But even as she drifted toward the realm of dreams, a sense of unease lingered at the edges of her consciousness. There was something in the air, a presence that eluded her understanding, a shadow that danced just beyond her reach. It was a feeling she could not shake, a whisper of danger that threaded through the fabric of the night. Alaric, ever vigilant, noticed the tension in her posture, the subtle furrow of her brow. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, his touch grounding her in the present. "Rest easy, Eowyn," he murmured, his voice a soothing balm. "We are safe here." Yet even as he spoke, the forest seemed to draw closer, its shadows lengthening as if in anticipation. It was a night like no other, a night where the boundaries between this world and the next seemed to blur, where the past and present wove together in a tapestry of mystery and intrigue. And so, with the fire's glow casting its light upon their slumbering forms, Eowyn and Alaric surrendered to the embrace of sleep, their dreams a tapestry of visions and shadows, of truths uncovered and secrets yet to be revealed. It was a journey that would continue with the dawn, a journey into the heart of a world both ancient and new, where the past lay in wait, silently watching, patiently waiting to be found. As the night deepened, the forest sang its lullaby, a symphony of whispers carried on the cool breeze. The trees, ancient sentinels, creaked and swayed, their branches weaving a dance of shadows on the forest floor. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the sweet decay of fallen leaves, a perfume both intoxicating and unsettling. In the realm of dreams, Eowyn found herself wandering through a labyrinth of memories, each twisting corridor lined with echoes of lives once lived. She walked among specters of the past, their faces obscured by time, their stories etched in the stones beneath her feet. There was a familiarity to this place, a sense of belonging that tugged at her soul, yet also a foreboding that quickened her pulse. One figure stood out among the phantoms, a woman cloaked in garments that shimmered like moonlight on water. Her eyes were pools of wisdom and sorrow, and as Eowyn approached, she felt a pull, an unspoken connection that transcended the boundaries of time. The woman beckoned her forward with a gesture that was both welcoming and urgent, as if imparting a secret that could not wait for the light of day. Meanwhile, Alaric's dreams were a storm of chaos and clarity, a battleground where shadows clashed with light. He found himself in a village not unlike their own, yet everything was twisted, as if seen through the lens of a fevered mind. The people moved in slow, deliberate motions, their expressions frozen in a rictus of fear and despair. He wandered the streets, his footsteps echoing in the eerie silence, and as he did, he began to see the signs of decay that marred the village. The once vibrant market square was now a tableau of neglect, stalls abandoned, goods left to rot. The air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke, and something more insidious, a miasma that clawed at his throat and blurred his vision. In the heart of the village stood a well, its stones slick with moss, the water within dark and still. Drawn to it, Alaric peered into its depths, where the surface shimmered like a mirror. He saw himself reflected there, yet his reflection was not alone. Behind him, a shadow loomed, its form shifting and amorphous, a presence that seemed to whisper of things unspoken, of secrets buried and forgotten. He awoke with a start, the remnants of his dream clinging to him like cobwebs. The fire had dimmed to embers, casting a soft, warm glow over the camp. He glanced at Eowyn, still deep in the throes of her own visions, her expression serene yet troubled. The forest was silent now, the nocturnal creatures having retreated into their burrows, leaving behind a stillness that was both comforting and ominous. Alaric rose quietly, careful not to disturb Eowyn, and stepped to the edge of their clearing. He breathed in the crisp night air, trying to shake the lingering unease from his mind. As he stood there, a rustle in the underbrush drew his attention. He turned, heart quickening, as a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a man, his clothes ragged and stained, his eyes wild and searching. Alaric tensed, ready to defend their camp, but the man's posture was not one of aggression, but desperation. "Please," the man rasped, his voice cracked and raw. "Help me. I've been wandering for days, searching for someone, something." His gaze flickered over Alaric's shoulder to where Eowyn lay, and his eyes widened in recognition. She is the one, isn't she?" Alaric's instincts flared, a protective urge surging through him. "Who are you?" he demanded, stepping forward to block the man's view. "What do you want with us?" The man sagged, his energy spent, and fell to his knees. "I mean no harm," he pleaded. "I seek the truth that only she can reveal." Eowyn stirred then, awakened by the voices, and rose to her feet, the remnants of her dream still clinging to her like a shroud. Her eyes met those of the stranger, and she felt a jolt of recognition, as if she had seen him before in the labyrinth of her dreams. "Who are you?" she asked softly, stepping closer, her curiosity piqued, despite the caution Alaric exuded. "I am but a humble scribe," the man replied, his tone earnest and imploring. "My name is Aemon. I have traveled far, guided by whispers of a woman who holds the key to our past, a woman who can bridge the gap between what was and what is." Eowyn's heart skipped a beat, the weight of his words settling upon her like a mantle. "What do you mean?" she pressed, her mind racing with possibilities. Aemon's gaze was steady, filled with a desperation that was palpable. "There is a darkness spreading through the land, a sickness that blights everything it touches. It is an ancient curse, one that has lain dormant for centuries, but now it awakens." Alaric watched the exchange with a mix of skepticism and intrigue. "And you believe Eowyn can stop it?" he queried, his voice edged with doubt. Aemon nodded, fervently. "Yes, she is the key, the one who can unravel the threads of this curse and bring light to the shadows. But time is running out, and the darkness grows stronger with each passing night." Eowyn felt the weight of his words settle upon her shoulders, a burden both daunting and exhilarating. She glanced at Alaric, seeking his counsel, and found in his eyes a reflection of her own resolve. "We will help you," she said finally, her voice firm and unwavering, "but we will do it together as one." Alaric nodded, his trust in Eowyn unwavering, and together they forged a pact with Aemon, a union bound by a common purpose and a shared destiny. And so, as the first light of dawn began to break through the canopy of the forest, they prepared to embark on a journey fraught with danger and discovery. It was a journey that would take them to the very heart of the mystery, a journey that would test their courage, their faith, and their bond. As they set out, the forest seemed to hold its breath, the trees standing silent and watchful, as if acknowledging the significance of the path they were about to tread. The shadows retreated before them, and the world seemed to awaken anew, ripe with promise and peril. For Elohim, Alaric, and Ammon, the road ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. But it was a road they would walk together, guided by the light of hope and the strength of their unity. And as they ventured into the unknown, the echoes of the past followed them, a chorus of voices urging them onward into the heart of the mystery that awaited their discovery. The morning air was crisp and laden with the scent of dew-soaked earth, a gentle reminder of the world reawakening from its slumber. Elohim, Alaric, and Ammon moved with a quiet determination, their footsteps a soft symphony on the forest floor, muffled by the carpet of leaves that had fallen in seasons past. The forest was an ancient entity, a living tapestry woven from the threads of countless stories, and today it would bear witness to another. Elohim, with her fiery spirit and unwavering resolve, led the way. Her senses were attuned to the subtle rhythms of the forest, each rustle of the wind through the branches a song, each call of a distant bird a note in the symphony of the wild. She was the heart of their little band, a beacon of hope that shone brightly even in the darkest of times. Alaric, the steadfast and contemplative warrior, walked beside her, his eyes scanning the undergrowth for signs of danger. The weight of his armor was a familiar burden, a constant reminder of the battles he had fought and the ones yet to come. His mind was a fortress, fortified by years of experience, but even the strongest walls have their vulnerabilities. His thoughts often drifted to the past, to choices made and paths not taken, but today he was grounded in the present, focused on the mission that lay ahead. Ammon, the scholar with a penchant for the arcane, trailed slightly behind, his gaze flitting between the path before them and the ancient tome he clutched protectively. The book was a repository of forgotten knowledge, its pages filled with secrets of the old world, and it had become an invaluable companion on their journey. Ammon's mind was a labyrinth of curiosity and wonder, always seeking, always questioning, and it was this insatiable thirst for understanding that had led him to join their quest. Their destination was a place shrouded in myth and mystery, a village said to lie at the crossroads of reality and legend. It was rumored to be the birthplace of an ancient curse, a blight that had spread through the land, leaving chaos and despair in its wake. The source of this darkness was a riddle that had eluded many, but Elohim, Alaric, and Ammon were determined to unravel its secrets. As they journeyed deeper into the heart of the forest, the air grew thick with anticipation, a tangible energy that crackled like static. The trees closed in around them, their gnarled branches forming arches that loomed overhead like the rib cage of some slumbering beast. The path became narrow and winding, a serpentine trail that twisted and turned with a will of its own. In the distance, a sound reached their ears, faint but unmistakable. A murmur of voices carried on the wind, a chorus of whispers that spoke of things long forgotten. The trio paused, exchanging glances laden with meaning. It was a sign, a harbinger of what lay ahead, and they steeled themselves for what was to come. As they pressed on, the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of sound that ebbed and flowed like the tide. It was as if the very forest were alive, a sentient entity that watched and waited, its intentions veiled in shadow. And then, as they rounded a bend in the path, the source of the whispers came into view. Before them lay a clearing, bathed in the dappled light of the sun filtering through the canopy. At its center stood a stone altar, weathered and worn by the passage of time. It was a relic of a bygone era, a monument to the forgotten gods of the forest, and around it a circle of hooded figures stood in silent vigil. The figures were draped in robes of deep green, their faces obscured by shadows. They moved with a grace that belied their years, their movements synchronized as if guided by an unseen hand. Eloan, Alaric, and Aemon watched in awe, their presence unnoticed by the enigmatic assembly. Aemon's fingers twitched with the urge to reach for his tome, to search its pages for any mention of this ancient ritual. But he resisted, sensing that this was a moment to be observed, not interrupted. The air was thick with anticipation, a palpable tension that seemed to hold the very fabric of reality in its grasp. The leader of the hooded figures stepped forward, their voice a low and resonant chant that echoed through the clearing. The words were a language lost to time, a melody that wove itself into the very essence of the forest. It spoke of balance and harmony, of the eternal dance between light and darkness, and as the chant rose in crescendo, the forest itself seemed to respond. The ground trembled beneath their feet, a gentle quake that reverberated through the trees. The air shimmered with a luminescent glow, a dance of ethereal lights that played across the clearing. It was a spectacle of nature's own design, a moment of transcendence that defied explanation. Eloan felt a stirring within her, an awakening of something ancient and primal. It was a connection to the land, to the spirits that dwelled within its depths, a bond that resonated with her very soul. She closed her eyes, allowing herself to be swept away by the current of energy that surged through the clearing. Alaric, ever the protector, stood at her side, his gaze fixed on the figures before them. His instincts screamed caution, but there was a part of him that recognized the sanctity of this moment, a part that whispered of trust and faith in forces beyond his comprehension. Aemon watched with wide-eyed wonder, his mind racing to comprehend the spectacle unfolding before him. He felt the familiar thrill of discovery, the exhilaration of knowledge just beyond his grasp, and he knew that this was a moment he would carry with him for the rest of his days. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the ritual came to an end. The chant faded into silence. The lights dimmed, and the earth stilled beneath their feet. The hooded figures, their task completed, turned as one and departed, melting into the shadows of the forest like wraiths in the night. Eloan, Alaric, and Aemon remained rooted to the spot, their minds reeling with the implications of what they had witnessed. It was a glimpse into a world beyond their own, a world where magic and reality intertwined, and it left them with more questions than answers. But as they stood in the clearing, the weight of their journey pressing down upon them, they knew that they were one step closer to the truth. The mystery that had drawn them together was unfurling before them, a tapestry of fate and destiny that beckoned them onward. With a final glance at the stone altar, they turned and resumed their journey, the forest closing in around them once more. The path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty, but they walked it with a renewed sense of purpose, their hearts buoyed by the knowledge that they were not alone. And as they ventured deeper into the heart of the mystery, the echoes of the past followed them, a chorus of voices urging them onward into the unknown. The forest seemed to breathe with them, exhaling a gentle mist that curled around their ankles like a cat seeking affection. Each step they took was cushioned by a carpet of fallen leaves, their colors muted in the dim light that filtered through the canopy above. The air was thick with the scent of earth and moss, a perfume of nature's own making that clung to their clothes and skin. As they walked, the forest around them seemed alive with whispers, the rustling of leaves, and the occasional call of a distant bird, weaving a tapestry of sound that enveloped them in its embrace. Ellawen, with her sharp eyes and keen instincts, led the way, her footsteps barely making a sound on the soft earth. Alaric followed closely behind, his mind a whirl of thoughts and possibilities, while Aemon brought up the rear, his senses alert for any signs of danger. The path was winding, leading them deeper into the heart of the forest, where the trees grew taller and the light grew dimmer. Time seemed to lose its meaning in this place, the hours slipping by unnoticed as they pressed onward, guided by an unseen force that pulled them ever closer to their destination. As they walked, the air grew cooler, a chill seeping into their bones that spoke of secrets long buried and truths waiting to be uncovered. The forest, it seemed, was a keeper of such secrets, its ancient trees standing as silent sentinels, their gnarled branches reaching out like fingers to brush against the travelers as they passed. It was in this place of shadow and mystery that they came upon a clearing, the trees giving way to reveal a small pond, its surface mirror still and reflecting the sky above. Moonlight danced across the water, casting an ethereal glow that seemed to illuminate the clearing in a silvery light. The three companions paused at the edge of the water, their breath misting in the cool air. It was a place of quiet beauty, untouched by the passage of time, and yet there was something unsettling about it, a sense of unease that prickled at their senses. Ellawen knelt by the water's edge, her fingers trailing through the surface, sending ripples across the pond. The water was cold, shockingly so, and she pulled her hand back with a shiver, a feeling of foreboding settling over her. Alaric, sensing her discomfort, placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, his touch grounding her in the present. Aemon, ever curious, wandered around the clearing, his eyes scanning the landscape for any clues or signs that might reveal the secrets of this place. It was then that he noticed something peculiar, a series of markings etched into the bark of a nearby tree, their patterns intricate and unfamiliar. "Look at this," he called out, drawing the attention of his companions. Ellawen and Alaric joined him, their eyes widening as they took in the strange symbols. "What do you think it means?" Ellawen asked, tracing the lines with her fingertips, the bark rough and cool beneath her touch. Alaric studied the markings, his brow furrowed in concentration. "It's some kind of script," he mused, "but not one I've seen before. It could be a warning, or perhaps a clue." Aemon nodded in agreement, a sense of excitement building within him. Whatever it is, it must be important. Why else would it be here in this hidden place? The three of them stood in silence, the weight of their discovery settling over them like a shroud. The markings were a puzzle, a piece of the larger mystery that had drawn them together, and they knew that they could not leave this place without understanding its significance. As they pondered the symbols, the night deepened around them, the forest growing darker and more oppressive. The sounds of the night seemed to grow louder, the rustling of leaves and the calls of unseen creatures echoing in the stillness. It was then that they heard it, a low, mournful wail that seemed to rise from the very earth beneath their feet. It was a sound that sent shivers down their spines, a sound that spoke of loss and longing, of spirits trapped between worlds. Eloan's heart raced in her chest, a sense of dread clawing at her insides. "We should go," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the chorus of the night. Alaric nodded, his instincts screaming at him to flee. "We can't do anything more here," he agreed, his voice steady but laced with tension. "It's best that we move on, before we attract unwanted attention." Aemon hesitated, torn between his curiosity and the fear that gnawed at him. But he knew that they had no choice, that their journey must continue if they were to uncover the truth. With one last glance at the markings, they turned away, their footsteps echoing in the clearing as they retraced their path back into the forest. The trees closed in around them, their branches arching overhead like the vaulted ceiling of a cathedral, and the night seemed to swallow them whole. As they walked, the wail followed them, a haunting melody that lingered in the air, growing fainter with each step they took. It was a reminder of the darkness that lay at the heart of their quest, a darkness that they must confront if they were to find the answers they sought. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and deception, but they walked it with a sense of purpose, their hearts steeled against the trials that awaited them. They were bound together by fate and circumstance, their destinies intertwined like the roots of the ancient trees that surrounded them. And as they ventured deeper into the night, the forest seemed to whisper to them, its voice a soft susurrus that carried with it the promise of secrets yet to be revealed. The journey was far from over, and the mysteries they sought lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to be uncovered by those brave enough to seek them out. In the heart of the forest, where darkness reigned and time stood still, Eloan, Alaric, and Aemon pressed onward, their spirits undaunted, their resolve unbroken. For they knew that the path they walked was one of destiny, and that the answers they sought lay just ahead, hidden in the shadows of the night. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow that danced across the canopy of leaves, painting the forest floor in silvery patterns. Eloan, with her keen eyes, could see the subtle shifts of shadows, the gentle sway of branches, as if the trees themselves were alive, breathing in the cool night air. Alaric, with his broad shoulders and steadfast demeanor, moved with a quiet strength, each step purposeful, echoing the resolve that coursed through his veins. Aemon, the youngest of the trio, followed closely, his curiosity a bright spark in the dark, his mind a tapestry of questions and wonder. The air was thick with the scent of earth and moss, a dampness that clung to their skin like a second layer. It was almost as if the forest were alive, its ancient heart beating in rhythm with their own. The rustle of leaves whispered secrets, a symphony of nature that filled the silence between them, a reminder of the mysteries that lay hidden within the depths of the woods. Their journey led them to a narrow path, barely visible beneath the tangled undergrowth. Here, the trees grew closer together, their gnarled trunks forming a natural archway that beckoned them forward. It was a place that seemed untouched by time, where the past lingered in the air like a forgotten song, waiting to be heard by those willing to listen. As they pressed onward, a chill crept into the air, an omen, perhaps, of the challenges that lay ahead. The path twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the heart of the forest, where the light of the moon struggled to penetrate the thick canopy above. It was here, in the embrace of shadow and silence, that they first heard the distant murmur of water, a gentle stream that wound its way through the trees like a silver thread. Drawn by the sound, they followed the path until they reached the edge of a clearing where the moonlight pooled like liquid silver upon the ground. In the center of the clearing stood an ancient stone well, its surface covered in a layer of moss and lichen, a relic of a time long past. It was a place of power, a nexus of energy that seemed to pulse with life, calling to them with a silent voice that resonated deep within their souls. Elawan approached the well, her fingers brushing against the cool stone, feeling the vibrations that thrummed beneath her touch. It was as if the well held the secrets of the forest, the answers they sought hidden within its depths. She closed her eyes, letting the energy flow through her, connecting her to the earth and sky, to the past and future. Alaric watched her, his eyes filled with a mixture of awe and apprehension. He could feel the pull of the well, its power, a tangible force that wrapped around him like a cloak. It was a place of magic, a bridge between worlds, and he knew that their journey had brought them here for a reason. Aemon stood at the edge of the clearing, his eyes wide with wonder. He could sense the importance of the moment, the weight of destiny pressing down upon them like the night itself. He felt a connection to the forest, to the well, to the very fabric of the world around him, and it filled him with a sense of purpose, a desire to uncover the truths that lay hidden in the shadows. Together, they formed a circle around the well, their hands joined in a silent pledge, a vow to seek the answers that had eluded them for so long. The air around them seemed to shimmer, a gentle hum that rose from the earth and filled the clearing with a soft, golden light. And then, as if in response to their unspoken question, the water within the well began to ripple, its surface breaking into 1,000 tiny waves that danced in the moonlight. Slowly, an image began to form, a vision that unfolded before their eyes like a tapestry woven from dreams and memories. They saw a village nestled at the edge of the forest, its thatched roofs and cobblestone streets bathed in the glow of the setting sun. The villagers moved about their daily lives, unaware of the watchful eyes upon them, their laughter and chatter a distant echo that carried on the breeze. But as the vision unfolded, it took on a darker hue, the vibrant colors fading to shades of gray and shadow. They saw the sickness that had taken hold of the village, the pallor of the people, the coughs that racked their bodies, the fear that lurked in their eyes. It was a plague of unseen origin, a blight that spread through the land like a creeping darkness, leaving death and despair in its wake. Elawan felt a shiver run down her spine, her heart aching with the suffering she witnessed. She could see the desperation in their faces, the hopelessness that clung to them like a shroud, and she knew that they could not turn away, that they had to find a way to help. Alaric's jaw tightened, his resolve hardening in the face of the challenge before them. He knew that the forest held the key, that the answers they sought were intertwined with the very fabric of the land, and he was determined to uncover the truth, to root out the darkness that threatened to consume them all. Aemon looked on, his mind racing with possibilities. with plans and ideas that danced like fireflies in the night. He could see the path ahead, the steps they needed to take, the risks they had to embrace if they were to succeed. It was a daunting task, but he felt a fire within him, a courage that burned brighter than the fear that threatened to overwhelm him. As the vision faded, the clearing was once again bathed in the soft glow of the moon, the air filled with the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant call of a night bird. The well stood silent, its secrets once again hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the next seeker to draw near. Elowin, Alaric, and Aemon exchanged a glance, an understanding passing between them, a shared determination that bound them together in purpose. They knew that the path ahead was fraught with danger, that the answers they sought would not come easily, but they were prepared to face whatever lay ahead, to confront the darkness and bring it into the light. With a final, lingering look at the well, they turned and retraced their steps, leaving the clearing behind, their hearts filled with a renewed sense of hope and determination. The forest seemed to embrace them as they walked, its ancient trees standing sentinel, guiding them forward on their journey. And as they ventured deeper into the night, the whispers of the forest followed them, a gentle reminder of the mysteries that lay ahead, waiting to be uncovered by those brave enough to seek them out. The moonlight filtered through the dense canopy, casting ethereal patterns on the forest floor as if the very earth beneath their feet was weaving a tapestry of their journey. Each step they took was a promise to the land and to themselves, a vow to uncover the truth buried beneath layers of time and shadow. Elowin felt the weight of her ancestors in the rustle of the leaves, the wisdom of generations echoing in the soft breeze that caressed her cheek. Alaric walked with a quiet strength, his heart attuned to the rhythm of the earth, the pulse of life that thrummed beneath the ground. Aemon, ever the dreamer, saw the stars above as guides, each one a beacon of possibilities yet to be explored. Together, they moved as one, a triad of resolve and courage, their bond forged in the fires of shared trials and tempered by the hopes they carried within them. The path was uncertain, the future a mosaic of choices yet to be made, but they welcomed the unknown with open hearts. As the first light of dawn began to creep into the sky, painting the horizon with hues of gold and rose, a sense of peace settled over them. The night's journey had been long, but the promise of a new day awaited, filled with the potential for discovery and change. In the quiet moments before the sun broke free from the horizon, they paused at the edge of the forest, looking out over the landscape that stretched before them. It was a world untouched by their hands, a canvas waiting for the strokes of their adventures. With a shared breath, they stepped forward, leaving behind the shadows of the night and stepping into the embrace of the morning. The forest, with its secrets and its whispers, faded into the background, a chapter closed but never forgotten. And so, with the rising sun as their witness, they walked onward, their spirits light, their hearts steady, and their eyes set on the horizon, ready to unravel the mysteries that awaited them in the light of day. As they ventured forward, the melody of the morning surrounded them. Birds sang with the joy of a new beginning, their tunes weaving through the air like a symphony crafted by nature itself. The gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze seemed to applaud their courage, a gentle reminder that though the path was unknown, the journey was theirs to embrace. Each step they took resonated with the echoes of their dreams, dreams that had been whispered under starlit skies and nurtured in the quiet moments of reflection. The ground beneath their feet felt solid yet alive, as if the earth itself was guiding them toward their destinies. The sun climbed higher, bathing the world in its golden light, illuminating pathways they had not yet imagined. Every turn held the promise of new encounters, every shadow a story untold. They walked with purpose, their pace unhurried, savoring the grace of the present moment. And as they moved forward, hand in hand, heart in heart, they knew that the journey was not just about reaching a destination, but about experiencing the beauty of the journey itself. The bonds woven between them were as strong as the roots of the ancient trees they had left behind, grounding them in the truth of their shared adventure. With a final glance back at the forest, they whispered their gratitude, their voices carried away by the wind to mingle with the lingering stars. And then, turning their faces to the sun, they continued on, knowing that every dawn brings the promise of new beginnings, and every step forward is a step deeper into the poetry of life. And thus, on they walked into the ever-unfolding horizon, where stories are born in the whispers of the wind and dreams take flight in the dance of the dawn. As they ventured onward, the path seemed to dissolve into a tapestry of light and shadow, each step drawing them into a world where the ordinary became extraordinary. The horizon ahead shimmered with the soft glow of the morning sun, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold, as if the universe itself joined them in celebration of their journey. Their laughter echoed through the air, mingling with the songs of birds and the rustle of leaves, creating a symphony of life that accompanied them on their way. They felt the earth beneath their feet, solid and reassuring, yet ever-changing, much like the journey they embraced. Each moment was a gift, each breath a testament to the wonders of the world unfolding around them. As the path wound its way through rolling fields and gentle hills, they marveled at the simplicity and grandeur of it all. The journey had taught them to see with new eyes, to appreciate the small miracles that often go unnoticed, the dance of a butterfly, the whisper of a breeze, the fleeting beauty of a wildflower. Time seemed to stretch and contract, each moment both fleeting and eternal. They spoke little, for their hearts were full, and their silence was rich with understanding. Together they had discovered that the true essence of any journey lies not in its end, but in the multitude of experiences that enliven the soul along the way. And so, with hearts open and spirits light, they walked into the embrace of the day, leaving behind a trail of memories woven from laughter and love. The path ahead was theirs to explore, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of new stories waiting to be lived. In the vastness of the world around them, they found their place, a perfect harmony between the seekers and the sought. And as the sun climbed higher, casting its golden light upon their path, they knew without a doubt that they were exactly where they were meant to be, together in the poetry of life, ever walking, ever dreaming. As the sun continued its ascent, painting the sky with hues of amber and rose, they paused for a moment at the crest of a hill. From this vantage point, the world unfurled before them like a living tapestry, each thread vibrant with possibility. The landscape seemed to sing with the promise of tomorrow, a gentle reminder that the journey, much like life itself, was an ever-evolving masterpiece. The distant mountains whispered of adventures yet to come, while the valleys below cradled the memories of where they had been. It was here, amidst the quiet grandeur of nature, that they felt the profound connection to all that surrounded them, the earth beneath their feet, the wind that carried their hopes, and the sky that held their dreams, all elements woven into the fabric of their shared existence. Hand in hand, they descended the hill, their steps in sync with the rhythm of the world. The path ahead was both known and unknown, a beautiful paradox that they embraced with open hearts. With each step, they left behind not just footprints, but echoes of their laughter and the gentle rustle of their dreams taken flight. As the day matured, they realized that the true gift of their journey was not in reaching a destination, but in the companionship that had turned every moment into a cherished memory. And so, with the horizon stretching infinitely before them, they ventured onward, knowing that they were part of something far greater than themselves, a story that was timeless and boundless. In the end, it was the simplicity of their shared moments that lingered most vividly in their minds, like the delicate fragrance of a wildflower carried on the breeze. Together, they had crafted a narrative of love and wonder, a testament to the beauty of the journey and the eternal dance of life. And thus, as the shadows lengthened and the day began its gentle descent into twilight, they walked into the evening, united by the unspoken promise that whatever paths they might choose, they would always find their way back to each other in the ever-unfolding poetry of life. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of amber and indigo, as if the world itself was nodding in appreciation of their journey. The gentle hum of the evening surrounded them, a symphony of crickets and whispers of the wind through the trees. It was in these moments of serene transition that they felt most alive, cradled by the universe's tender embrace. As stars began to twinkle one by one like diamonds scattered across a velvet tapestry, they paused to gaze upward, their hearts swelling with gratitude. Each star seemed to echo a memory, a laugh shared, a tear wiped away, a hand held in silent understanding. It was a celestial reminder that the bonds they had formed were as enduring as the constellations that guided sailors across uncharted seas. Their footsteps were light, their spirits buoyant. As they continued along the path, the world around them darkening, yet feeling impossibly vivid. The night was young, and the promise of tomorrow lingered like the soft glow of the moon, casting its gentle light upon their way. In that sacred stillness, words were unnecessary. The silence spoke volumes, a language woven from the threads of trust, hope, and an unwavering belief in the journey they shared. They knew that the road ahead was filled with unknowns, but also with infinite possibilities, all waiting to be discovered together. And so, with hearts intertwined and dreams whispering softly in the night air, they ventured forward, hand in hand. The world was vast and full of mystery, but within each step, they found a home in each other's presence. In the story they had woven, the journey was the destination, and love was the eternal compass guiding them through the ever-unfolding poetry of life.